You don't even make money. Don't you talk to me with that attitude? That was how my mother-in-law talked to me every day. My happy life with my husband collapsed after one incident. When I moved in with my in-laws, I found out my husband's true nature. I was shocked. I endured being treated like a servant day in and day out, but the job I started without telling my family was actually the backbone of the company. My mother-in-law, who did not know this, forced me to quit that job, which had been my only emotional support. That was when I made a courageous choice, and the result was... My name is Sarah. My husband and I have been married for 2 years now. The four of us live at my parents-in-law's house with my father-in-law and mother-in-law. My in-laws are publishers. It's a family business where all the employees are family members. You haven't even finished making dinner yet? I'm so sorry. My manuscript is due tomorrow. I'll start dinner right away. How useless! You're just doing a stupid side gig that doesn't pay at all. My mother-in-law's abusive ways were nothing new to me. My father-in-law is a taciturn man, and at home, he let my mother-in-law wear the pants. He was always at my mother-in-law's beck and call. I used to be a member of my university's writers' club. That's how much I love writing. Once I start writing, I get so into it I lose track of time. Currently, I am a successful writer for the family publishing company, where my father-in-law is the president, but of course, my in-laws, and even my husband don't know about this. That's why my family only thinks of me as a housewife who is only capable of doing the housework. I really second-guessed my decision to become a writer. At first, writing a little of my novel every day on my blog was the only fun I had to save me from my drab routine of household chores. No matter how much my mother-in-law abused me, I could feel a small sense of purpose by writing novels. Then one day, something unexpected happened. The novel on my blog caught the attention of the editor-in-chief of my in-laws' company. You have a talent for writing. Why don't you apply to be our exclusive scenario writer? Thank you very much, but I'm not a pro, so I have no confidence. I was originally interested in my husband's family being a publishing house. My writing was highly praised by a professional editor. How could I not be happy? But quite honestly, I was so scared to tell my family, who saw me only as a maid. I could tolerate being yelled at for not being able to do the housework, but I was afraid to tell my family about my work. By telling them, I felt that they would take away the only refugee I had left. I am so sorry. I have to decline. It's such a waste of your talent. Please reconsider. He contacted me every day, and his passion really moved me. Then, if you can keep my name, face, and other personal information anonymous, I'll do it. I guess you've got your own circumstances, huh? Well, it could be nice to be mysterious. That's not half bad. Let's do that. Okay, thank you. Thus, I became the exclusive scenario writer for my in-laws' publishing company, and so, like a fish talking to water, I wrote and wrote and wrote. I was now a mysterious, up-and-coming scenario writer, carrying the company's name on my back. One day, I was washing dishes in the kitchen in the late afternoon when the doorbell rang. Yes? It's me! Hurry up! When I opened the door, there stood my sister-in-law, who always had a bone to pick with me, and my 3-year-old niece with an innocent look on her face. My sister-in-law was holding a Boston bag and a carry-on case, carrying a Boston bag and a carry-on case. My innocent-looking niece was carrying a small backpack. Oh my! Look at you two! You're late! The train was running late. This is so heavy. You, get our stuff! What happened to your other luggage? The carrier will bring them tomorrow. I'm so tired. At least offer me some tea. And some juice for my daughter. You're so inconsiderate. What's the meaning of this? My mother-in-law is chatting nonchalantly with my sister-in-law, while I stood by stunned. My father-in-law and husband seemed to welcome her too. I was the only one who didn't know that my sister-in-law would be living in this house starting today. I call over my husband, who was having a conversation in the corner of the room. Your sister's living here now? I didn't hear anything about this.
Did I not tell you? Well, it doesn't matter. It'll be lively.
You should have told me sooner. I didn't even clean out a room.
It doesn't matter. They're already here.
My husband always refuses to talk to me about important things. When we were still dating, he was a kind man who was always willing to discuss everything with me. I married him because I was attracted to his kindness, but I haven't seen that kind side of him for a very long time. He never listens to what I have to say. It's as if he is at my mother-in-law's beck and call. My mother-in-law opened her mouth when she saw Patrick and I talking. What are you whispering about? I said, It's nothing. I just wasn't told that Jane was coming. My mother-in-law interrupted me as if to keep me from speaking. Why do I have to talk to you, a stranger, about my family's affairs? Who do you think you are? Don't give me that attitude when you're just my son's wife. If you have time to work at a job that doesn't even make money, then you should be doing your housework properly. My mother-in-law was originally against our marriage. She thought I was a soft-spoken woman with nothing to offer. Even so, we got married because my husband convinced that since he was her second son, we should never all have to live together. At that time, because of that, my parents-in-law reluctantly allowed us to marry. However, I was concerned about the bitter look on my mother-in-law's face, as if she felt her son had been taken away from her. We lived peacefully and happy lives until just a year ago. My husband used to be a very ordinary businessman. We bought a 2DK apartment with a small loan and lived the slow life together. One day, a year ago, my brother-in-law, who was the managing director of the family's publishing company, suddenly passed away. He was on his way to a client when he collided head-on with a large truck that was driving sideways. Misfortunes always come suddenly. My parents-in-law came to our condo after my brother-in-law's funeral. It was a hot and humid summer night. Please help us! What do you mean? Our publishing house is doomed if you don't help us. Patrick, please take over for your brother. My brother-in-law's death couldn't have been stopped. It was inevitable, and I felt sorry for them. My heart was moved by my in-laws' feeble voices as they pleaded with my husband. But my husband didn't want to discuss it with me, even though it was a decision that was very important to both of us. The next morning, my husband accepted his parents' offer without telling me. I should have known. My mother-in-law doted on my husband, and my husband was dependent on his mother-in-law, so he resigned from his job and became the new managing director of the publishing company. We moved in with my in-laws at home, and the attacks on me continued. Hey you! What are you doing? I'm getting hungry. You should be ordering some takeout. You witless, useless bitch. I understand. You're really not very smart, are you? I've endured repeated verbal abuse, but this incident with my sister-in-law, my patience was running out. My sister-in-law always talked down to me. I guess my calm personality rubs her the wrong way. I'm not fond of people who speak out of turn like my sister-in-law. From now on, I will not only live with my parents-in-law, but also with my sister-in-law. I can't bear to breathe the same air as my sister-in-law, on top of already living with my abusive parents-in-law. Of course, my husband had no idea that I was feeling this way. He was back in the living room playing with my innocent niece, unaware of my feelings. He doesn't even try to protect me. I was shocked, standing in the kitchen, trying to hold back the feeling that I was about to explode. Then, as if to rub salt in the wound, my mother-in-law approached me. My daughter will be working from home to help the company with paperwork. I need you to take care of my granddaughter while she's doing that, since you have so much free time. Sorry? Oh yes, and by the way, your side gig, which doesn't even pay well, you'll just have to quit it. Being a scenario writer was my only emotional support. If even that was taken away from me, I won't be able to survive. I summoned up all my courage and refuted her. That job is my reason for living. Please let me keep doing that. Please. Purpose in life? What an exaggeration. Something so meaningless? Meaningless. You can't even contribute in any way with that job. Just quit. No, I said, crying. You have way too many opinions. Know your place and don't you dare to talk to us like that. If you don't like it, get out of this house. My mother-in-law's face turned bright red and she cursed me in a more vehement tone than usual. I was so frustrated that I was sobbing my eyes out. My husband came to the kitchen. I thought he would protect me, but that expectation was easily betrayed. What are you talking so loudly about? You're startling our niece. Patrick, Sarah is yelling at me. All I did was ask her to take care of my granddaughter. I will do that, but I really don't want to quit my current job. Well, relax. It's fine. You can take care of her niece. It's no big deal. That's not the problem. I'll take care of her. That's not what I meant. The problem is about me quitting my job right now. Why don't you just stop working for the time being and start again? Now it's clear. My husband is clearly on the side of his mother. He doesn't even listen to me. The man who used to be kind and understanding to me is nowhere to be found. There is no one in this house who is on my side anymore. I felt a sense of emptiness that overcame my anger. Fine, I'm going home to my parents for a while. We don't need you in this house, so get out! My family doesn't know that I'm the publisher's top-earning scenario writer, of course, but even if I told them that at that point, what would happen? It didn't matter to me anymore. The next day, I packed my bags and left my in-laws' house. I told my parents what had happened. My parents gently comforted me and told me to do as I liked. They would be supportive of my decision. At first, I was just trying to cool my head with some time away, but I didn't hear from my husband even once after that. I was devastated that he had lost so much love for me. I wondered if he had ever really loved me in the first place. These thoughts were running through my mind. The only person who showed any concern for me was the editor-in-chief of my husband's company. I hadn't even called him for work since I left home. He was the first person to believe in me, so I felt immeasurably guilty. A week passed and still nothing from my husband. I made up my mind. I was going to divorce him. I immediately filled out the divorce papers and mailed them to my husband. I also could not mope around at my parents' house forever. I found an apartment and started to live alone. 2 days later, I received an envelope. When I opened it, I found that it contained only the divorce papers with my husband's signature on it. I felt indescribable indignation at the very simple response. At the same time, a thought came to me. I felt a certain feeling of relief. I got over it. I would never be a part of that family again. The next day, I called my editor and editor-in-chief to terminate my contract to write exclusively for them. I apologize for this personal matter, but I can no longer be your exclusive writer as of today.
Why so suddenly? At least tell me the reason?
Please ask the president and the managing director about the reason. That was all I said as I hung up the phone. At that time, I didn't care anymore about explaining the truth. The editor-in-chief must have reported to the president that their top writer had suddenly quit. Naturally, my ex-family had no idea why, so I was not surprised when the next day, the editor-in-chief called me.
The president would like to speak with you directly. I'm sorry to ask this of you, but would you be kind enough to come to our office?
I refused at once, never wanting to see any of them again, but I felt bad for the editor and the editor-in-chief who had helped me, so I decided to be reasonable. The next day, I went to the publishing company. When I arrived at the company, the editor-in-chief led me to the door of the president's office. I opened the door.
Why are you here, Sarah?
My ex-father-in-law was the first to open his mouth. At first, he did not seem to understand the situation. It must have come as a bolt from the blue that the top-earning writer was really me. In addition to my ex-father-in-law, my ex-mother-in-law and ex-husband were sitting there as well.
You were our exclusive writer?
My ex-husband said in a surprised tone. His rude tone irritated me, but I nodded silently. My mother-in-law was so stunned by this that she seemed unable to even utter a single word. The editor-in-chief must have sensed the situation. He was explaining to the president again with documents showing my contribution to the company so far. Hearing this, I realized at first glance that the company's performance had deteriorated markedly since I had left my position as a writer. I immediately understood that the running of the company itself might be in jeopardy. After a few moments of silence, my taciturn ex-father-in-law opened his mouth.
Sarah, I am sorry for treating you so badly. I apologize from the bottom of my heart. I now have realized from this experience how much you mean to us. This may sound like a selfish thing to say, but I would like to ask you to sign a contract as a writer for our company again.
My ex-husband followed suit.
I want to apologize for my lack of respect for you, not realizing that you were a writer. Please forgive me. The company's business is in jeopardy. Just come back to us. Please think about it. I'm begging you. It's the only thing I'll ever ask of you again.
I listened silently with my head down. My ex-father-in-law and ex-husband were apologizing in front of me, but they were talking about something that was only good for them. They were clearly panicking. Various abusive words that had been thrown at me in the past were running through my mind on loop, and at the same time, I was filled with bitterness and frustration that I had been holding back what I wanted to say all along for people like these.
Why aren't you apologizing too?
Said my ex-father-in-law in a strong tone. Until now, he had been unable to express his opinions to his wife. After a short silence, my mother-in-law slowly opened her mouth. Sarah, I am sorry for saying bad things about you until now. The work you are doing is so important for our company. If you had told me at the beginning, I wouldn't have behaved that way. Please reconsider. Something snapped inside me at my ex-mother-in-law's excuse of an apology. The feelings I had been suppressing erupted like a volcano. I decided to give her a taste of her own medicine by talking over her. That's enough! You want me to just shut up and listen and come back like a good little girl? How convenient for you all. If you really want me to come back in the first place, you should have come to me yourself. Mrs. Executive Director, how do you feel about being rudely interrupted? This is what you have always done to me, isn't it? My ex-mother-in-law looked a little pale and said in a feeble voice like a buzzing mosquito, I have endured all the abuse you subjected me to. Let me make it clear now. You treat me like a servant when I'm at home. Now you want me to slave away at the publishing house? I am not stupid. I never want to see your faces again, so I won't be signing a contract with you. To you people, I have always been treated like a nobody, even when I was supposed to be your family. Didn't you say that I'm a housekeeper who can't even do a good job of housework? Did you think that even if you apologized to me now, I would say yes? Yes, thank you. Take me back? You underestimate me too much. I am not that foolish. I don't need you to support me. From now on, I will live for myself. I am very grateful to the editor and editor-in-chief who found me, but this and that are different matters. You always did say I was a nobody. So I don't care what happens to the company. As if in a fit of anger, I let all the feelings out that had been bottled up inside of me. My ex-father-in-law and ex-husband hung their heads in silence. My ex-mother-in-law was also staring blankly, but I saw a look of humiliation in her eyes, like she was forced to swallow something bitter. The editor-in-chief was looking at me with an apologetic, complicated expression. It wasn't like I wanted an answer. I had made my point, so I left the reception room. My ex-sister-in-law, who did not know what was going on, was coming out of the office. She glared at me, and I silently glared back. I thanked the apologetic editor-in-chief and the editors for all the good they had done for me and left the company. The next morning I woke up feeling refreshed and natural. I haven't felt this good in forever. When I opened the curtains, the sky was clear. The sun was shining brightly and sparrows were singing. I decided to change my writer's name to make a fresh start and started a new blog under my real identity. From now on, I decided I would live for myself and honor my feelings. I will never walk on eggshells for other people again. A few days later, I got a referral from the editor-in-chief of my former company to one of his acquaintances working at another publisher. I received an offer to make me their exclusive writer. I am very grateful to the former editor-in-chief who made the introduction. I am sure that doing my best in the new place will be the best way to repay the favor. So after that, I challenged myself and became involved in scenario operations for dramas and stage productions. My days are busy, but fulfilling like never before. I am appreciating the joy of living among people who recognize the value of my existence. Meanwhile, according to the rumors I heard from acquaintances, at my ex-parents-in-law's publishing company, the editor-in-chief, editors, and most of the staff resigned. They have moved on to other publishing companies. My ex-parents-in-law's publishing company itself has fallen into financial hardship. They seem to be keeping it afloat somehow. However, to pay off their debts, they sold the parents-in-law's house, and the 5 of them are now crammed in a cheap 30-year-old rental apartment. My ex-husband is still the same as before. He is still at his ex-mother-in-law's beck and call, and they codepend on each other. He can't even stand on his own and works 2 part-time jobs as a cashier at a convenience store and a security guard. But as I am independent and have a newfound confidence, I really couldn't care less about these rumors. My life is my own.